Hi everyone, thanks for checking out my video on the AUG. This particular one will be on the differences between the NATO version and the stock. Alrighty, we'll get into it. The original Steyrs were designed and built in the early 70s and fielded in the late 70s. They were known in the Austrian Army as the Universal Army Rifle and was adopted to their military, I believe, in 1978 and fielded in 1980. The Steyr AUGs have been in service for the last 40 years in approximately 40 countries. That's military, law enforcement, and private contract security. The differences between a NATO version and a stock version will primarily be in the magazine release. On your standard Steyr, you'll have strictly a tail release here. On a NATO version, you're going to have this AR style push button, and that it will be a dual mag release system. On your standard AUG, instead of having this separate mag release, you will actually have a bolt catch. It'll be a release button here that will be vertical, and your stock, and the difference, will be the left and right hand ejecting. In the NATO version, as this one is, they are only right hand ejecting. If you come across and you see a stock and it has an extra cutout, or actually will have a tab that is removable once you field strip the rifle and change the bolt from a right hand bolt to a left hand. They switch out pretty quick once you have the equipment. So those are the primary differences. This rifle comes in a litany of variations. This one here is a NATO A3 M1 and is a flat top. The flat top version comes in 3 rail sizes, a short, a medium, and a long, and you also can get it in 3 different optic versions that look like your traditional 1970s, which would be called the STG 77. That original variant had a 1.5 optic, that was a zoom. They also come with a 3 power, and they have a detachable for the flat top rail version of a 3 power Skorsky glass that goes on these. Alright, your basic teardown field strip will be to remove your magazine, which I've already done and put away, but depending on which one you have. Tail release, you'll remove your magazine. Your charge handle will be pulled back and locked to the rear. Check and verify you don't have anything inside, that you are clear and safe. And then the teardown procedure is extremely simple. It is just a few steps to do. In the front of the AUG, opposite of your gas piston, you will notice that there is a little button. You will need to push in and down and rotate the barrel forward, and it will actually pop and is somewhat spring-loaded to come out. This will remove your barrel. This will pull your barrel, your forward hand rail, and your gas piston. These barrels are designed to be quick interchanging. They come in a few different lengths. This particular one is a 16-inch barrel. You can get these all the way up to a 24-inch with and without a collapsible bipod. The original design for this style, and which everybody always talks about, are these barrels being unique and quick changing. When this rifle was originally fielded for the Austrian Army, it was a light machine gun, similar to a M240 machine gun, or the Browning 30-06 rifle. They were worried about the barrels just overheating, and it was easier to quickly change out, and the handguard, or actually your forward hand, your forward grip here, it was designed so you didn't have to grab the barrel. If these things ran in the military version in full auto, these barrels would start to glow. And they did not want someone trying to adjust a gas piston that broke, or or got clogged up with the rate of fire. So that was the big reason for having this handguard, and it is foldable, but it gave you a leverage point to remove the barrel. Going in to pulling out your receiver, once you've removed your barrel, you will need to pull your bolt down out of the lock position, but hold it, just not in the lock position. Behind your trigger, this here is your actual safety. This here is the lock that holds your receiver into your stock and your chassis assembly, because your bolt is located back here. So what you'll need to do is, once you pull this lever down out of the unlock position, holding the bolt in the rear position, you will push your lock button through the chassis. It'll pop out here on this side, and once you've done that, you'll need to pull it, and then the front of the receiver will spring forward, and you can release the charge handle forward, and then the whole upper, your guide rod, bolt carrier group, and gas piston rod will come out of the chassis. So that's what we're going to do next. If you do not have your bolt located to the right position, this button will not want to pull out. They are extremely tight. So once that pops out, that's there. Release your charge handle forward. It latches, and then just pull slightly, and your receiver will come out of the chassis. As you can see, there's your guide rods and your gas piston, the gas piston rod. Your upper receiver is all extruded and milled aluminum. Your reciprocating charging handle will stay in the chassis. It will not come out. It is locked in the front. The only thing on this upper, you can pull off your pick and knee rail and your flat top changeout with the removal of 3 screws located inside the receiver. You back those out, and then you can pull and change out your flat top to a optic based or longer or shorter rail system. This is all turned to be one piece, and all of your connections and ride assembly for the guide rod, for the bolt carrier, and the gas tube system are all chrome lined inside. As you can see, here's your lockup for your bolt, and you're around where the barrel then interconnects to the inside of your receiver. Your front QD mount on the new variants is quick detach, and that would be your upper receiver. Your guide rod and bolt assembly, all your rods, everything are chrome lined. They are steel. This has your lockup, very similar to your AR style locking bolt. If you wish to remove the firing pin in the back, you'll see there are 2 winged clamps. You'll have to press these in and rotate to the up position. That pulls them. You will then push in on your firing pin and rotate 90 degrees, and it will pull out. It is spring loaded, and the spring is captured, and then you will see your firing pin. Now you are going to notice that this one is somewhat dirty. I've been testing and firing this rifle for the last month or so, and I have not cleaned it yet. Relock in your firing pin by reversing the steps and making sure you pull down the tabs. And there is your gas tube and guide rod assembly. We are going to stick this back inside the chassis of the receiver. As you can tell, the lockup, everything is milled extremely tight as it rotates. getting into your stock, if you so desired, you can buy the NATO version and you can change out the stock to a standard AUG platform, and you could change out your bolt carrier from a right hand to a left hand if you needed to switch this to a southpaw. You just have to replace this tailstock. Your trigger pack is located behind your mag release. To access it, you'll remove out your swivel stud by depressing on the back of the buttstock. There is a small detent. You will have to get some leverage on this to push it in and remove this pin out. It is milled and cut to hold in the trigger pack. Once you have that out, your buttstock will be removed. It is a rubber injected around a piece of stainless steel. So this is all one piece and molded. And then the trigger pack slides out of the rear of the gun. There's nothing else inside here. And this is your standard field strip and teardown for cleaning. One unique thing with the AUG, which started on the very first gun, is the polymer base. The AUGs were one of the very first polymer combat rifles, and they went so far as to make this whole trigger pack, minus your springs, is all from polymer. It is Steyr's own blend. At one point there was a fiberglass weave to it. On this particular one, I believe it is just a high strength, similar to like an ASB polymer. I don't believe they use the fiberglass weave in them anymore. If you were to come across one of the original Steyrs from the late 70s or early 90s, you can actually tell in some of the stock where it looks like a fiberglass resin stock instead of a polymer, and that was just the way that they were made. Alrighty, well, we'll get back to the reassembly. The only thing left in here, your trigger is still in here, and there's a few for your mag release. These could be pulled out, but there's nothing in here to pull and clean. There are some aftermarket parts you can change out for your QD mount, so you can take out the rear swivel type stud and put a QD mount into it. They also do make a QD mount that replaces this lock for the upper receiver, that makes it a single pin QD mount from this position. But to do the reassembly, make sure your pin stays out off to the side. Your trigger pack is going to slide here on the top of this rail. Do make sure you push it in, and you're checking to look down this hole and to make sure that everything lines up. Best way to do this is just to push forward, make sure it goes all the way in. Put on your butt plate. There's a lock here at the very bottom. There's a cutout for this piece of the metal. Make sure you get it inside and push that together. Again, like when you remove the swivel mount, make sure that you push in and push the pin all the way back through. If you do not set this up, the trigger pack will be locked, but the buttstock will fall off if you push this too deep through due to the milling on the pin. But just to check it, try to pull off your rear stock. It should stay locked, and then this swivels however you need it to. That's your trigger pack back into the rifle. To remarry your upper, you have it all back together. Stick inside, making sure that the pin is sticking out all the way. With a little bit of force, push your upper receiver back into the chassis. You are looking right here at the front for this lip edge at the rear where the bolt catch would lock to make sure that there's no gap. You may have to push and keep pressure due to the spring tension wanting to push this forward. Once you do that, then you will push and lock up the button, and it will set flush on either side of the stock, and that puts your bolt carrier group and upper receiver all back to the stock. You do not need to run the bolt carrier and lock it to the rear. You can put your barrel back in to the front of the rifle. Once it's rotated, it'll come in. All you need to do is push with a little bit of force and rotate down. And that is your reassembly of your AUG. Verify your action by charging the weapon, and everything is set. Well, to finish up on some of the technical data for the rifle that I didn't go over in the first of the video, these are a 2-position short stroke gas piston for your fire. You have a standard rate, and you have a full open position for adverse conditions, or if you wish to run a silencer on it. Your barrels are hammer forged and chrome lined. They are a 6-grooved right hand twist, 1 in 9 on your NATO versions. Some countries, Australia, Austria, I believe the Netherlands, and the Philippines, the barrels do have different twist rates. Everything from 1 in 7 all the way to the 1 in 9, depending on which country this rifle is going to go to. But your standard NATO for the US will be a 6-grooved right-hand twist, 1 in 9. Your overall length on a 16-inch is 28.15 inches. That it would be from the tip of your muzzle device to the very end of the buttstock. Also, the difference in the standard AUG and the NATO, along with them being able to have left and right hand ejection, would be the primary for the NATO. If you were looking to buy one of these rifles, you would very much wish to consider, if you want a NATO and you wish to run the AR15 general magazines, which would be all of your PMags, your standard GI issue steel mags, even up to your beta mags, your 100-round drums or 60-round drums, you would want the NATO. This particular rifle will run the AR mags. If you happen to pick up one of the standard European models, which would have your bolt release button here instead of your mag release, they run a proprietary Steyr AUG mag only. Those mags come in 10, 30, and 42 rounds, and the quickest way to identify one would be the magazine is a honeycombed clearish polymer. Is the quickest way to identify those mags, along with the rifle, it not having this circle and T// for a mag release. So if you look about buying one, make sure which model that you're looking at, if it's a NATO or a US or the standard European. You wouldn't want to make that mistake and get one that doesn't take AR mags, or want the standard version that only takes proprietary mags. Our next video on the AUG will consist of the pros and cons of the bullpup design, a comparison in the guns that have been built after this design, and what you would compare it against if you were looking to purchase one, along with some video of us shooting. So until next week, this is T and Steyr saying thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next week on the range.